Before we move into the next topic, just want to say check us out on iTunes if you have not. Type in The Fast Break. We should be the first thing that comes up. It should be the Mock Draft 2.0 that we just did last week. And if you are there, you have the time, please give us a 5-star rating. We'd greatly appreciate it. Right now we're at 38. We're at a 4.5-star rating, and I do want to give a shout-out to Jax H4, maybe Jax4, JAXH4, who gave us a 5-star review on January 7th. Said, great podcast. Been listening for a while, and I can honestly say this is one of my favorite NBA podcasts out there. So go be smart. Go be like Jax H4 and give us a rating. Shout out to Jax for doing that as well. But let's jump into the next topic, and that is NBA trade deadline. What team needs to make a move now at the deadline, before the deadline, to improve their chances to get to the playoffs, better their NBA title contention resume? Ricky, what was that team in your mind?
Well, for me, it's a tricky team because I feel like they need to make a move, but I also feel like they will not be able to make a move just because who's going to want to help them out because of what player they're going to have to move. But that's the New York Knicks. They got to get something done where I heard there was news that, they might be moving Cantor in a trade with the Kings. That would be a swap of contracts. But for me, this is a team needs to make a move because of one reason alone: free agency. They want to make a big splash this free agency, whether that's bringing Kyrie over from Boston, whether that's getting Kevin Durant to come to New York. They want to make a splash. They want to get back into the limelight. How do you do that? You get contracts like Tim Hardaway Jr. off their books. My question is, who's going to want Tim Hardaway Jr.? Because most of the one-year contracts that are out there are like, oh, you trade for a Jabari Parker, but if I'm the Bulls, why would I want a Tim Hardaway Jr.? That's what I'm looking at of, should they? Yes. Will they? Probably not.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the Knicks, obviously this wasn't, something that, NBA title contention, but obviously you cleared it up with free agency. I think that, clearly they have cap restrictions because you look at, the KP. KP's coming up. He's going to be an RFA, so they do have control over signing him. But most likely someone might throw a max out there, especially one of these worst teams with cap room, because, Kristaps Porzingis, when healthy, is a top 20 player in the NBA. That's a huge caveat of when healthy. So you question what they're going to do with that cap space that they do have and how they're going to free it up. Tim Hardaway, I think, is a useful asset, but it has to be to one of those teams. I thought I brought up Dallas before for him, just because they're not a team that typically brings in big free agents, and they do need some scoring help. And now JJ Barea is going to be out, so maybe that does open up. If an injury does happen and some of these teams are looking for good scorers, maybe Tim Hardaway does come up, because him off the bench, I think that would be a really nice option. I don't know if he's going to be a guy that they can move though without giving up like a future asset,
and that's
just tagging that on to get rid of the contract. But then again, how much will they be in contention for signing a free agent? Just because you want to doesn't mean you should, or
you
even,
hope because
or
it's
even
New York.
will do it.
Yeah, I get the whole you hope because it's New York, but yet again, who would want to go and play for Dolan's team?
Here's my thing, and this is the one thing about that was I would just watch the Two Bills, the NBA, the 30 for 30 documentary about Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick, and one thing that Belichick didn't want when he was going to stay as the head coach of the Jets was that Dolan or Woody Johnson was going to take over, and he was like, I didn't like either of those guys. So Dolan could be a huge turnoff. But the thing too is I've been alive for 21 years, and I've never seen a big free agent go to the New York Knicks. And the biggest one I saw was Amari Stoudemire. Melo was in a trade. Outside of that, I've never seen a big star go to New York, and I do not know what's changing now in 2019.
You could say Melo stayed with New York. He had the option to leave and go to LA,
I'm
Chicago.
pretty sure that Melo wanted to go to New York, and he requested a trade to New York. So outside of that,
time he just wanted to get paid.
Outside of that, those two examples, and those are still kind of iffy because Amari wasn't Amari when he did sign, and Melo wasn't. Melo obviously wanted to go there. I can't think of any other, any other player that was a big signing for New York, and I don't know what's changed now in 2019 to put them in contention, because they're always in the news. They're always in, one of the teams, one of the rumored teams. They get shut down every now for interview requests. I do not see them signing a big free agent this year, because I don't know what's changed and made New York more appealing outside of maybe Fizdale.
No, I completely agree with you. I think that it's just, I think people are willing it to happen at this point. There's nothing concrete behind it. So, yes, you might.
It's a big, that's the thing. I think it's just because it's a big market.
Yeah.
That's it.
But LA's and it's weird because I'm like, but LA's the better market. Like, New York's the biggest, but LA is the better one for a lot of people's careers. So, yeah, I don't know about that. It's tough, though, because Tim Hardaway's contract just sucks.
I know.
Well, I mean, it's 18 a year for, I think, 2 more years after this season. So, I mean, it's not great. But he's a chucker right now on a bad team. So if you do put him on a better team where he has more of a defined role and more defined players around him, would he be a chucker? And then what can he produce?
Justin I think Holiday in a lesser role, and I don't. They're not equal, but like we're watching what Justin Holiday was in the Bulls a year ago was a chucker for us.
Yeah,
bad team, and he was by far a volume shooter. This year he was the 3-point stand behind the line. That's all he was capable of, which worked out great. We moved him for basically a second-round pick, and now he's over on a playoff contention team in the Grizzlies.
They're second in the Western, second to the bottom of the Western Conference. They've completely fallen off the map.
They're 19-23. I'm sorry, the 8th seed is 23 wins. Like it's all contending except if your name is the Suns.
I guess. I mean, yeah, they're right now
3 games
three
back
and a half,
from, yeah.
3.5 games back, but they're also 3-7 in their last 10. So
his shooting doesn't help that.
No, it doesn't. and I just don't see Memphis being a team that truly can make a playoff push. I know you wanted them to,
and we
in your
will
playoff
see.
prediction.
We got a lot of time,
but I don't see that happening and coming to fruition. But Dave, give me your team that you think needs to make a move at the trade deadline.
I'm going dream team here. I want to bring Jeremy Lin back to Houston.
Oh,
I think that
he brings Chandler Parsons too.
Honestly,
he's available.
Honestly,
they don't have a cap.
I have Chandler Parsons is going somewhere else. That was going to be a later one for me. But no, Jeremy Lin to Houston makes sense because the Hawks want to accumulate assets. Guess what? The Rockets are willing to pay out their future because they don't care about it because they've got their guy locked up long term in Chris Paul and James Harden. So they're not worried about like draft picks in the future. So
look how many they were going to give to the Spurs.
Supposedly, yeah. So I mean that's the thing. I think that they can move him. They can match contracts with some of the guys on the bench, but like Brandon Knight or Marquise Chriss, the two that everybody throws around because no one wants either of them. Brandon Knight, I still hope that at some point he'll be healthy for more than a week at a time. But Jeremy Lin, watching Austin Rivers do what he does there, I'm like, oh man, if he can do that, like imagine what Jeremy Lin could help this team out because I'm still going in with the assumption that Chris Paul will not be healthy the whole playoffs. And if James Harden is playing like he is right now, I don't know if he's going to have enough gas in the tank come the playoffs. Remember a couple years back when we watched him where he literally just gassed himself out in a series and it was just like, there's just nothing left, man. Like, I appreciate your effort, but you are done.
But how do you think that's going to play in then? Because if they do acquire Jeremy Lin, you're looking at that group of guards as Austin Rivers, who's been playing phenomenally, Chris Paul, if he's ever healthy, James Harden, Jeremy Lin, and then Eric Gordon as well. Correct. You even have Brandon Knight still on that team.
If he's not traded for Lin.
Yeah, how is that going to end up working out, at least rotationally with those players? Because I don't think you really want to cut Rivers' minutes too much because he has been performing well. Eric Gordon's been banged up. Chris Paul's been banged up. Jeremy Lin isn't a pinnacle of health.
I'm making the assumption that they won't be healthy. That's why I think you do the move. It's an insurance move. It's because when you get to the playoffs or even during the playoffs, you need depth to soak up those minutes. And he is quality depth. He is a capable starter in the NBA. The whole thing is just his health has betrayed him time after time after time. And I would absolutely love to see him get another chance in Houston to kind of redeem himself.
Do you think, though, that guard is the most important position they need to address? Because to me, I still look at that wing position as something that's more crucial to their, ability to win over, having someone to back up James Harden.
I don't disagree, but the problem is the wing depth and availability is not there for me, or at least wings I would want on my team to match Houston. Like, who's available versus what can we do to get him here? And I just don't know that there's anyone in my mind who fits that like niche area. It's a very small area because you're looking for someone who is switchable, who is capable of shooting the 3-point shot very well, and basically is someone who can, switchable in 3. That's all you need for Houston, really. So I don't know if they want to go back and try to get back like Luke Mambute from the Clippers, just because they're not using him. Be like, hey, we'll give him some minutes again if you get,
I'm going to throw this out there, and I'm going to take your Rocket thing and kind of throw a little bit else into the pot. let's say that the Brandon Knight thing, he is healthier than more than 1 week, and you can now work with him at the point. What about, I'm reading an article here from the Rocket site for Fanside, one of their staff staff writers is the word I was looking for. What about Vucevic? Vucci-Mang. If they went ahead and got him because of his offense and what he can bring to the table, and the way I love how he puts it is, you might look at him and Clint Capella as like, oh, they're a bit redundant, where it's like, no, Clint Capella can dominate in the paint. Vooch has more of an offensive game in the paint and can do more for you. If point guard is healthy, should they even go then and make a move to get another big man like Vucci-Mang?
I think that with the concerns about him being run off the court in the playoffs because of his defensive
Liability.
Yeah, he's a defensive liability. That's a nice way of putting it. I think that should be the concern, because there were stints where even Clint Capella was unplayable because of the lineups they were facing when teams would go small on them and run on them, and Vucevic would not help in those kind of situations. So I think that, offensively, super gifted, and I would love to see him on a team competing. I don't know the Rockets are the right fit for that.
Mm-hmm. And you think about who he could possibly fit with, and I was listening to the Ringer NBA show, and they brought up the idea of the Kings, just because him on that team offensively and the way they play now and keeping up the pace, offensively he could be really damaging on that team, adding them to the Kings, especially with Cauley-Stein's contract coming up. Maybe they do try to make one more push, and maybe we look at them trying to acquire Vucevic. I think he's an interesting guy to definitely look out for. I just don't know exactly.
Spurs. Think about it.
I mean, I like it, but again, like Gasol's still on that team, although he's been banged up. You look at Bertans as well. You look at LMA. I mean,
and then Jakob Poeltl.
Yeah, Poeltl as well. I mean, like, where's the exact fit on that? Is there going to be enough minutes for everybody to go around?
I mean, I don't want minutes for Paul Gasol at this point in his career. I'm sorry. Like,
when he's played, he's been okay.
He stands out there and he's tall.
He hasn't been as bad as Dirk.
You're right. Like, Dirk's hilarious.
Top 10 power forward, by the way.
This year. Not all time.
Coming into this year.
I'm not your representation legally, but I would just say never bring that up again. You just sound really stupid when you bring it up.
But I say it in a joking manner.
He admits his faults. But no, I think that if Vucevic went to that Spurs team, who I'm weirdly falling in love with the Popovich system all over again. I was like, at the beginning, I'm like, this is asinine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, old man won't get over his, bias against the three-point shot. And right now, they're the best three-point shooting team in the league. They just refuse to take them if you can't make them. Like, I watched them hit that start of the game when it was 13 of 13 three-pointers made. And I was just like, they can't fucking miss. This is incredible. What am I watching? Like, I'm watching something special. And like you said, Bertrand's out there allowing them the space of the floor. His offensive game has really been beneficial for them, giving them a boost off the bench. And then even when they moved into the starting role temporarily, like, it's been effective. But I think that if you add Vucevic out there, that way you have yet another ball-handling big down low who can facilitate out, who is active on the boards. Well, LMA is a monster, but he has his ups and downs for games, and he's not engaged every game. So I think Vucevic would add a level of consistency and a guaranteed 5, because right now, like you said, they are cycling. They're using multiple guys to fill the role, and I think if you have a steady, stable 5 in there with Vucevic, I would feel much better having Vucevic, LMA at the 4-5 than, like you said, either the Paul Gasol combo, Jakob Poeltl. Like, Yaka and LMA together have not played well. That's sort of why I'm hesitant. I think that Vucevic, spacing-wise, helps out for LMA's game.
Marcus Aldridge.
It's hard to say out loud.
Going off of that, I'll go into my team, and I will stay out in the West.
Yeah.
I was listening again to the Ringer NBA show with Kevin O'Connor, Danny Chow, and then Jonathan Tjarks. And the idea of the Hawks possibly wanting to move Taurean Prince was brought up. And the teams that Kevin O'Connor said were the Thunder, the 76ers, and I want to say Rockets. I could be wrong on the Rockets part.
Surprised not the Blazers on there.
It was Blazers.
Oh, okay.
It was the Blazers. It was the Blazers, nice. It was the Thunder, and it was the 76ers. Those were the team he thought of. And I was looking at teams, and I did think of the Thunder, and I was trying to work out deals for Taurean Prince. And I came up with one. Mm-hmm. It was Prince for Terrence Ferguson, and then a second-round pick in 2020. But then I started thinking, all right, he needs the ball in his hands to be efficient. Obviously, Russ needs the ball in his hands to at least drop the numbers he does and keep that offense going. And then obviously they have Dennis Schroeder out there as well. And then I was thinking, well, where did the Thunder get Dennis Schroeder from? It was the Atlanta Hawks. And I just typed in Dennis Schroeder and Taurean Prince. At least lineup-wise last year, they weren't bad. It was pretty much neutral when looking at the lineups of them out there. I mean, it was a little bit leaning negative, but also it was a very bad Hawks team. And the most minutes that Taurean Prince played with, it was with Dennis Schroeder. So it's kind of tough to figure out, was he better with playing with Dennis Schroeder? But when the whole stuff of Dennis Schroeder requesting a trade came out, Taurean Prince took to Twitter with laughing, crying emojis, and then also soldiers acting like generals, shake my head. So I don't know if Taurean Prince is going to be the smartest addition to the Oklahoma City Thunder if that is the case. But then you start thinking about the Philadelphia 76ers, and I do think that is a very interesting team that does need to make a move. You look at their bench, you look at their lack of scoring, of everything off the bench. We don't know if Markelle Fultz is going to be out there. He's not playing. Amir Johnson isn't playing. He's just taking up a roster spot. They don't have players that are currently on the roster contributing to their team. They just signed Highsmith or Hightower, some G Leaguer, who isn't even playing as well. So you look at what this team has on the floor, and they just need bodies. They need people who are going to be consistent out there that aren't going to turn the ball over, and they do not have that off the bench. And Taurean Prince is a guy that can come off there. He can put very useful and contributive minutes on the ball, both offensively and defensively. I think that would be a great addition for the 76ers, but that's not the only move they should make. They got to go out there. They got to get guard help for sure, because we don't know if Markelle Fultz will ever be able to shoot. We don't know if he's ever going to be playing for the 76ers. And then you look at TJ McConnell. We talk about, we love his passion, we love his grit, we love his energy. He's going to be a Sixer for a while, but again, the skill level isn't there to be the next guard up off the bench. So you need to look at that position as well. You need to address this bench for the 76ers because you have 3 All-Stars in Ben Simmons, Jimmy Butler, Joel Embiid. They're fantastic next-generation players, next-level players. And this is a team that's not even going to be 4th right now, in my mind, if this team stays the same way, in the Eastern Conference. So there needs to be some help, both depth-wise and then, at least these stars working together. And I think the biggest thing for that is at least taking some of the pressure off them. And the pressure's fully on the 76ers right now, at least for Ben Simmons, Jimmy Butler, and Joel Embiid. The spotlight's on him with the whole Jimmy Butler thing coming after Brett Brown, apparently. Nothing has blown up since then, so it could just be overblown media reports, which I wouldn't really write off yet. But there is a true need for the 76ers to improve their bench. They need scoring. They need defensive contributors. And you look at this Butler trade, and it's like, would they be better off just of keeping, Dario Saric and Robert Covington? Because a big thing that they do lack is depth. And 2 guys like Saric and Covington would be a huge boost to this team. And you really question now, I think it was a necessary move for the Sixers to make to get Jimmy Butler. I wouldn't go back and redo that trade because they needed that leader out there. They needed a guy to come out and, be a number 1 star who can be, both a defensive stud and then also a number 1 scorer for them. But so far that has not worked yet. I think it was worth a shot, but so far it hasn't played out, and I think they still are lacking that depth that they lost in that trade.
They need help on the bench because the thing I'm going to throw out there is like when you start looking at Google now and you start looking at Jimmy Butler, there are a ton of different fan bases now that believe, hey, if this doesn't work out in Philly, can my team, like I'll throw out the Rockets, for instance, because that's a lot of articles and things that I've seen about the Rockets, could they reignite some Jimmy Butler talks in the offseason if it's not working out in Philly? Could he walk? Could he want a sign and trade from Philly because he goes, you know what? This ain't working out for me either, which if it doesn't, sorry, Jimmy, this is on you, not on anyone else, because how many situations now have you burnt a bridge in if that's the case? But that's what I wonder too, of why the Sixers need to do something to help the team, because if anything happens to Jimmy and they have to sign and trade or he walks after the year, then it's a huge failure. I
think that at least this move, because we haven't seen any blow-up happen since, and we don't know what's going to happen at the end of the season, I think this move, at least for Jimmy so far, can be seen as something of him trying to work out this situation in Philly. So he's planning for the future to make sure that his stay in Philadelphia is the most productive and the most fruitful it can be. We haven't seen any major negative backlash come out since that Jimmy Butler Brett Brown story came out, and maybe it is something of, hey, I want to be the best player I can be. This is how you can help me, and maybe it just got overblown in the media. So that I'm not really looking into too much. I still expect him to sign and re-sign with the Philadelphia 76ers. I don't think this is going to be something that does blow up again and he goes to another team.
Let's see what happens in the playoffs. Anything can happen if, let's say, they get bounced in the first round.
I'm not writing that off. I'm just saying right now, I think that we can probably say that this is probably Jimmy Butler trying to make sure that a brand new coach he's working with. Hey, you've never worked with me before. This was a problem with Fred Hoiberg. This was a problem before my career. Well, not really Thibodeau, because obviously I think the problem wasn't with Thibodeau at all. It was with
Wiggins and Cat.
Wiggins and Cat. I think that he's just trying to make sure he can get the best situation for him. And I think one way you can also improve that is getting some help for this team, because they severely lack bench depth on this team. It's really just down to Joel Embiid getting thrown the ball late in games, Jimmy Butler just trying to ISO late in games as well. Ben Simmons cannot really be play off ball at all. And we've seen him trying to shoot up jumpers every now and then. Brett Brown wants to take in one every quarter. So we'll see if he's able to work something out. But I think at least Elton Brand needs to at least ignite something to this team, because they're relying heavily on Furkan. They're relying heavily on Landry Shamet. I think that there needs to be some reignition in this Philadelphia team, and it can't be from the stars and Jimmy Butler and Ben Simmons and Embiid. It needs to come from the bench.
Yeah, the problem is they're just so hamstrung by their contracts right now that they need multiple teams involved to make a move, because basically you've got Embiid at 25, Jimmy at 20, Wilson Chandler at just shy of 13, and then JJ at 12. And then you're down to guys on rookie contracts, whether it's Markelle Fultz, Ben Simmons, Zaire, Shamet, Bolden. Like, you just don't have that depth of cost on your roster, so you're trapped basically. You need another team, or you're moving. Like, Wilson Chandler's obviously the odd man out of this lineup, like we all know it. But who wants to eat that value? They're going to need something else to sweeten it, and that's why I'm like, all right, you're going to need a multi-team trade to really land you, like you said, either a guard depth, wing depth, or a backup big, which is what I still think they need, because we watched that one game. I watched the one game without Joe this past week, and they just don't have an answer. Like, I'm sure they really regret letting Rashawn Holmes walk and keeping Amir Johnson.
I saw a couple of things where it's like, if they didn't make that Nerlens trade, if they didn't make the Rashawn Holmes trade, if they didn't make, if I forget what other trade, like what their lineup would be, it would be like TLC, it would be Rashawn Holmes, it would be Nerlens, it would be Dario, it would be Covington, and those five guys just paired with Ben Simmons, JJ, and Joel Embiid. How good this team could be, at least how deep it could be. And you look back and, like, would you make those trades again? Because yes, you were trying to improve your team at the point now, but also you gave up a lot of young assets, and now we're kind of seeing what giving up young assets can do when it does mean you're trading 2 for 1. You consistently see this in fantasy football, where it's like, hey, I'm getting a 2-for-1 deal. 2 guys are better than 1. So far that's been hurting the 76ers, because they haven't been able to replenish that depth that they have been able to do when they get those draft picks. They're not able to keep that depth that they do end up losing making big trades like that. And it was from Drew Corrigan on Twitter, playing an 8-man rotation in January. What are we doing here? Open roster spot that isn't used. Patton, Fultz, and Amir collecting dust. Some dude named Haywood Highsmith. Is Elton Brand alive? They do need to make some moves, because an 8-man rotation is not going to be helpful, especially when your 2 stars, Ben Simmons, came into the league with an injury, and then Joel Embiid has had clear injury history in the past. You need to get some help to take off pressure of these guys. Final quick trades. Anything else you guys want to throw out there for at least teams that need to make moves?
I got one more, and the second one didn't work, so I'm going to throw out. This one is the Charlotte Hornets, and the reason why they have to do something in my mind right now. They are, I'm going to use the word clinging to the 8th spot, because they're only a game above the Pistons, and the Pistons look like they're a team. I don't know if they're going to make a run, if they're going to fall out, but they're only a game back of the Hornets right now. The Hornets also need to stay in the playoffs, because it is clear to me that it looks like they want to try to keep Kemba Walker. They want to try to re-sign him long-term at the end of the year. How do you do that? You make the playoffs. That's your first goal. I'm just going to throw it out there. Go get K-Love. K-Love on this team. I've got K-Love and J.R. Smith going to the Hornets. You got to throw in J.R. to make the contracts work. and you give Cleveland Bismack Biyombo and Marvin Williams. You unload some contracts, but you take on some big money in K Love, who you can then pair with with Kemba Walker and maybe keep them happy to where, hey, we're trying to build around you. Let's go get it in this Eastern Conference.
And I'm guessing, you didn't say this, but I'm assuming if it's a Ricky Widmer trade, picks are going.
Well, yeah, they've got to go to Cleveland.
Picks are going.
Yeah.
Just because I think it could be interesting, but also Kevin Love is an injury machine.
Yep.
Same with guys like Nick Batum. They're not able to stay healthy. J.R. Smith hasn't played basketball since October, I think, or November, whenever he had his outburst.
He chose he doesn't want to play. Yeah.
So I just look at that, and I'm just not sure if that's going to be the smartest deal. I think that talent-wise, it would help this team because Marvin Williams hasn't been, the player they signed to that 4-year, $54 million contract. Bismack Biyombo obviously did not live up to his deal with the Orlando Magic for 4 years, $72 million. They do need to, expunge some of that cap. And I think Bismack is up after this year.
They're both 2 years, so they're both player ops for after this year. They both have player options, and if I'm Cleveland, it's a win for me. I get future picks from the Hornets.
Probably
I
two
get
picks.
my top, hopefully, knock on wood, top 3 pick this year, which right now I believe they're still number 1 in the top 3, same odds.
guaranteed.
But I look at it too, and I go, I get those, I get this, and if those 2 stay, hell, I'm bad for 1 more year to get another top pick. I get 2 straight years of top picks plus your future picks. I'm good with that while I try to rebuild.
And right now they've lost 12 straight, the Cleveland Cavaliers, and that does not look like a site's going to end. Maybe on Martin Luther King Day on January 21st when they play against Chicago, but outside that, they're
probably play
the
enough
Lakers,
to beat 'em.
Portland, Utah, Denver, Chicago, Boston, Miami, Chicago, Washington, Dallas, Boston, Washington, Indiana, and then New York. So there's 2 Chicago games and a New York game in there, and then 2 Wizards games as well. That they can totally just lose from starting in Wednesday, December 19th, all the way to Monday, February 9th. Or Saturday, February 9th. So it could be something that, it plays into the tank and plays into that Zion machine. But again, having the worst record does not guarantee you the number 1 pick anymore. Dave, any final trades? Because you mentioned Chandler Parsons.
I had Chandler Parsons going to the Trailblazers. That was the
How does that work out contract-wise?
Money for money, they've got a certain
Cash considerations?
No, not cash consideration. I'm not dealing with the Warriors and the Bulls right now. No, I think it's Evan Turner.
But do you think Evan Turner is more useful than Chandler Parsons is?
Oh, absolutely.
So then why would you trade?
I just want Chandler Parsons to be free. You can throw in any contract you want on that team. I don't care.
Do you think for him to be moved though, they need to?
I think he's
going to
get written off. I think he will be in the Carmelo Anthony book of like, you're not worth money to us anymore. Goodbye. He'll hit waivers. So it's not even a trade. It's just I would like to see the Trailblazers pick up Chandler Parsons.
I feel for him, just
clarified.
If he is healthy, he should get the option to play. Yeah. Obviously, the Grizzlies will not let him. So hopefully something gets figured out with that situation. But I don't see anyone taking on $24 million, and I don't really see.
Oh God, no. Yeah, that's
the Grizzlies eating any of that cap either. So I don't see what's going to happen.
So what happens? Like it's just a stalwart.
So maybe it ends up just being like a Carmelo or JR situation, like you said. But I think that would suck for Parsons, especially if he's finally healthy after so long. Because then maybe you start working out over the offseason, and then you something flares up again. If you're ready to play now, I feel like you should have that option to play right now.
But like, are we just? I don't want to go full Ricky Widmer here, but like, any of these teams actually got a shot against the Warriors? Like we're making all these deals. We're trying to build a better team.
Well, I think for the 76ers, the biggest thing for them is how much can they, prove to like what I think the biggest thing for them is to, right now you can blame it on bench, bench problems. And then if the bench is fixed and you're not able to get over that hump in the Eastern Conference, then what other change needs to be made to help your team? And then you start bringing in the coaching thing. So I think for the 76ers, you need to at least have the best team out there that you could possibly push out there to make the biggest push to, again, improve your team. Because if you're not playing, a full roster and giving, a full depth out there, then you don't really know what you have out there in Jimmy, Ben Simmons, and Joel Embiid. And there's no true way to improve your team without knowing that.
Also, 2 things. First off, now you know why I stayed away from the Western Conference, Dave, and both of mine were from the East. But with the Sixers, why it's important too is if the playoffs started today, do you know who they play in the first round?
The who?
the Sixers, who they would play if the playoffs started
Celtics.
today. The Celtics.
And they would
And if they
lose.
get bounced out by the Celtics in
they
the
would.
first round,
100%.
then if I'm Jimmy, I'm freaking out because it's like I came here to compete and we can't even get past the Celtics on a down year for the Celtics. Like,
Yeah, but they've
this
been playing
hasn't
better.
been. I know,
So,
but
I mean,
what I'm saying
it's going to
is,
hurt less when they're the 5th seed losing to the 4th seed.
and that's the thing. If the 76ers, they need to get better, hopefully, so they don't have to play the Celtics in the first round.
Or get worse, so you just play Indiana.
Yeah, on the
'Cause
road.
If I'm any Eastern Conference team, the last team I want to see in the first round would be Boston, just because right now they're moving the ball extremely efficiently. They're
Yeah.
playing great
They're
defense
terrifying.
like they have been. Yeah, I mean they've been fantastic. 7-3 in their last 10.
I mean, I
final
would still
team-
say the Raptors over them, but whatever.
Yeah, I'm saying they're terrifying. I'm not saying they're the best team in the East yet.
Okay.
Yet. But I will say I think there are teams that can definitely compete with Golden State. I know Los Angeles obviously has been struggling 4-6 in their last 10. Obviously that's due to LeBron being out. I think they would be an interesting team to make a move. Vucevic would be interesting for them because I think this is going back to the Ringer NBA show. I literally just listened to it, so it's fresh in my mind. But they brought up the fact that they had Brook Lopez, and seeing what Brook's adding to that Milwaukee team is huge. For their spacing and for their flooring. And obviously Vucevic has a very similar player type for them. I think that would be very interesting because he also brings passing into that mix as well. He can run up and down the floor. He plays into that high speed, high up tempo offense that the Lakers are looking to play. And we've been seeing with LeBron out, their assist rate has actually gone up, which is huge for the Lakers. And if they're keeping that ball moving and they have, add in another dangerous 5 that's not JaVale McGee or old man Tyson Chandler, it would give them an extra, step up and possibly help them compete with DeMarcus Cousins if DeMarcus Cousins is fully healthy. I also look at Oklahoma City too. I think they do need a piece. Obviously, looking for that Taurean Prince trade, they need another scorer out there because their defense is fantastic. Nerlens just got injured. That's going to be a big blow. We don't know when he's going to come back. But still, even looking at that, they need somebody to come off their bench and be a scorer because they have Dennis Schroeder, they have Paul George, they have Russell Westbrook.
Come on home, Enes Kanter.
Maybe, but I don't think he's still going to be enough because he's pounding down burgers and getting sick from it.
DNP burgers.
Yeah.
Honestly, the Bulls, we've done bad trades with the Thunder before.
We've
got a couple 4s on our team and a 5.
Bobby Portis, would you?
Jabari, Bobby, and Rolo are all available to anyone who wants
Would
them.
not want Jabari Parker if I'm the OKC.
Not many teams do.
You know who's not going to be
got
the
Bobby and Rolo,
You know who's
though.
not going to be the Golden State Warriors? Jabari Parker.
But
you put him on the Warriors in 2K and he's phenomenal.
he's a monster. But I'm saying if a Rolo to either the Lakers, the Thunder, Sideshow Bob still has talent. Let him go out there, let him play. He's a high energy kind of guy for short minutes.
I don't think that, especially if Nerlens is going to be fine, I don't think Rolo would be a good fit for OKC.
Yeah, no, that's the thing is assuming health, Steven Adams and Nerlens are fantastic together. So yeah,
and that does it. Those are the teams that should make moves at the NBA trade deadline. We got 6: Lakers, Thunder. We have more than 6.
Blazers, Rockets,
Hornets,
anyone who's not
Knicks.
the Spurs we threw out there.
Yep.
Clippers, I guess. Yeah, why not, guys? Make a move.
Nuggets, just keep doing the same thing you're doing. Get healthy.
Get healthy and see where you're at. I think this team, you don't really need to make a move
first
yet.
in the West.
You're first in the West. I don't think you need to make a move because right now, even if you lose, in the playoffs, you can just say, "Hey, we're young."
Yeah.
And if you lose
No
to a
one expects
LeBron
it.
team who's 8 and you're the first seed, just be like, "Fuck, we're the first seed," and we lost to the greatest player of the past 15 years.
Yep.
So I think Denver's fine the way they are. Same with Golden State too. They could use an extra body, I think.
Yeah.
Just for extra playoff depth, but even then, if they get a low level player, they might not
if
even
they
use
get
him
all
in the
5
playoffs.
All-Stars healthy, it's not fair.
Yeah, and we'll see January 18th for DeMarcus Cousins.